Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED, and this is Q5 Ham Radio. I'm joined today by Chris, KL9A. He's just back from Madeira, CQ9A, with stories about the CQ Worldwide CW contest in which he placed second in the single operator, all band, high power category. And I'm sure he has many stories to tell. Chris, thanks for joining me.
No problem. I'm glad I could make it today. Just got home.
So tell me about just getting home. I think we were all following you on social media. It sounds like a long trip home, a long layover in Seattle.
Yeah, nothing's ever easy from Montana, right? So I had to overnight in London, and then they cut the flights to Bozeman during the week. So morning flight, evening flight. So I took the evening flight. So I had a long wait in Seattle, but yeah, it was okay.
Well, I'm sure everybody has a lot of questions for you. I think this is the first chance you've had to address some of those questions. But before I ask any, how are you feeling? What's your takeaway from the weekend's activity?
I feel great. It feels like I won the contest. Of course, I didn't, but no, it's great. I'll be riding this high for a while. Anytime you can go the distance and do 48 hours and do the best you can, it's always a good feeling. And, breaking the previous world record was always a goal of mine for 20 years. So, yeah, it's great. I feel awesome.
So let's jump into the technical part of it. Did the plan go per plan?
Everything went very well, except for something happened with my logging program. I did the CWTs on Wednesday. Everything worked great. And then I don't know, it's hard to tell. Time's kind of a blur for those 48 hours. But certainly maybe in the first few hours, something happened where my two keyboards would get into the other logging window and all keying would stop. And I remember vividly the very first QSO that happened with was K1AR, of course. And I was screaming at the radio because 100 guys are calling and I couldn't send. I didn't know what was going on. Couldn't do anything. And somehow I got it to work, and then it just kept happening the whole contest. I kind of figured out how to get it to work better and fail less. But of course, as fatigue sets in and you get, less coherent, you make more mistakes, and then making those mistakes set DXlog into this tizzy. And that's not an excuse. It's just, it happened. And I literally screamed at the radio the whole time. If you end up talking to Valery, he'll tell you, he would be in the other room and I would just start raging. He'd come running in, what's wrong? What's wrong? I'm like, the logging program. Only it wasn't PG rated. It was a little more extreme than that.
So what was the workaround?
The workaround was, so in 2BSIQ, the whole thing is about synchronization. And if for some reason, if I sent the exchange out of sync when the keyboard swapped sides on accident, I had to go back to the other side, send the exchange again, the full exchange. I couldn't truncate it. Then go back to the one that stopped sending and start from the beginning. And that takes time. And on the air, 15 seconds sounds like an eternity. Certainly as the operator, it sounds like forever. And guys would keep calling, and I knew I sounded awful. I couldn't change it. I don't know how to fix it. I just didn't know. So sort of yelling and trying to do the best I could. That's all I could do.
Chris, one of the things I'm curious about, and we spoke about this before the contest started, but you arrived, everybody's busting you a little bit because you were the last of the three titans to arrive at your station, and we were all joking about champagne and caviar. But as I noted, you were actually building antennas in those couple days beforehand. And I think that Valery was working on antennas during the contest. Is that right?
Yeah, the station owners in general, they want to build stuff. They want to do things. If you're at the station, then you might as well capitalize on the time. So Valery was setting up the 160 receive antennas that he had just received. I brought one of the boxes with me in my checked baggage, and he was in the middle of the night setting up verticals and doing things. And we decided to have a second 80-meter antenna, and we had the time, so we put one of those up, which ended up working beautifully. So yeah, if there's nothing to do, you might as well try to improve somehow. So that's how that happened.
So Jose CT1BOH had a lot of theories about EF8R versus CQ9A. What did you find out to be true or not true in that analysis?
It's interesting because I had no perspective on what was going on outside of my little world. But I could tell right away, certainly on the second day, without question on the second day, that 10 and 15 were just not what they should be for me. And I haven't looked at any data. I literally just woke up. But I can tell you that Western Europe was right at the noise floor. And luckily at Valery Station, you can hear everything. But the issue was they couldn't hear me. Lost my frequency a lot on 10 meters, which was very unusual. But it is what it is. So Jose was definitely right that the 200 miles when conditions are marginal, it makes a big difference. And we see this during high sun spots. Things would have been a totally different deal during high sun spots. Um, but the low bands were fantastic. I, it's, they were amazing, and certainly keeping up with Dan on the low bands was huge. Um, so I'd say Jose's analysis was spot on.
And the contest online scoreboard does prove that out. If anybody looks at the pages where it shows 10-meter contacts, QSOs, CQ9A versus EF8R, you can see that there's a pretty wide gap near the end of the contest. And that didn't happen on 20 meters at all. You were pretty much even on 20 meters.
Yeah, and of course I spent less time on 10 because it wasn't great. I'm looking forward to looking through the logs and the armchair quarterback the next day, but it was great. Anytime you make 11,000 QSOs, it's not a bad weekend.
So what was it like for you to be somewhat driving blind? And I know you never look at the contest online scoreboard, or not usually, but this was high stakes this weekend. Were you feeling good? Were you feeling like you might be in trouble? What was going through your mind 24 hours in?
A lot. It's a psychological game for sure. You question, is this what I should be doing? And I could be doing literally anything else that's more productive than this right now. But I can say this weekend, I never had those thoughts. When the keyboards and the CW ascending stopped, yeah, I was not in a good spot. But for the first hour, I was CQing, and it was like, well, this is what we're doing. Okay, I guess I'm going to be CQing all weekend. That sucks. But whatever, I think I still had a 300 hour, something like that. It's not terrible, but I knew that Dan was going to be running away with that. So you just work what you can. I knew mults would be a struggle since all the other CT3's on, and I ended up doing very well on mults. That was a personal goal, a considered effort. So I'm happy with that. 24 hours in, you just think, okay, one more day. And I break it up into chunks. It's like when you're on a treadmill and, you're like, okay, if I only go 2 more minutes, then I'll be good. Okay, 2 more minutes from that, I'll be good. So for me, it was 12-hour chunks. So after the first day, I was like, all right, get through the next 12 hours. And then I'm, halfway to the end in this last day. And actually, the last 4 hours were really fun. And I don't think I've ever said that before. I had no idea what day of the week it was. I didn't know where I was. I didn't know how to operate. At one point, actually, most of the second day, I thought I was in Shamit actually operating. It was bizarre. So I'd tune around and I'd call a molt, and I'd be like, oh crap, my antenna's pointed the wrong way. No, it wasn't, because I'm not in Montana. So I try to figure out how to point my antennas, and I'm like, oh my God, what am I doing? But all the mults that called and just, pushing to the end, it was great fun. The last 4 or 5 hours were super fun.
Well, tell me more about that. Why was it super fun?
So 2B SIQ is boring. I don't care what anybody says. It's awful because you just do the same thing the whole time. You're just running, guys. And I think that's super boring. So, you do that for 48 hours. It's just kind of monotonous and draining. But when you start getting all these multipliers calling, moving to other bands, and you're like, okay, I need these 5 easy mults on 15. How do I get them without ruining my run rate? And all these things are going through your mind while you're trying not to hallucinate, trying to figure out, how to function and how to hit F keys. And the mental drain was challenging, but that was the fun part. The number of mults that called me were just super cool. I worked at Tango 88 on 80, which was just super cool from Madeira. I mean, only because Valery's antenna is he's so loud. So all this cool stuff called in. I use the third radio a lot, and running 2 bands, using the third radio, working mults, things were working well. Everything just kind of clicked, at least from my perspective. I'm sure it was different on the air, but it sounded good in my headphones.
And what was your strategy for moving people? Were you doing that early on, or did you wait until later in the contest?
It depended on who called. I did try to move a molt in the first 4 or 5 hours, and I think the guy just kind of was like, yeah, whatever, buddy. But I was moving guys certainly within the first 10 hours. And it was guys that I figured probably wouldn't be on later, or people that I had known that were maybe the single out classic category, things that I didn't expect to get, which is hard. But the second day, everyone starts moving guys the second day. So I worked V47T, which Andy was the only guy on. If you don't work him, you're not getting a V4 molt. So I think I worked him on 40, knowing that he and EP5A and these guys, the Caribbean guys, were going to be on there, so I had to get them. And then Andy asked if I needed him to QSY.
That's
Heck
awesome.
yeah. So there was a string there. I got a great screenshot. I think I worked 12 mults right in a row from everybody moving around. That was super fun.
Chris, you made no secret of the fact that you were concerned about your health and getting through the 48 hours. Tell me about that. Obviously, you got through the 48 hours and you look good today. Was there any sense at all near the end that you might be faltering?
Yeah, that second day, I think Dan said it in his write-up too. That 09 Zulu hour was kind of the witching hour for us. It seemed like, and that's always the hardest part. But I kind of preemptively struck on my problems and things that I knew were going to happen, and they did. They certainly did. But I was able to kind of temper them a little bit. The last 12 hours were really hard on me, harder than ever, honestly, in that respect. But I did it, so I don't have to do it ever again. So that's the silver lining.
So there's a lot of chatter online, and you had so much support online. I don't know if you've had a chance to catch up on that at all, but all weekend long I was doing the Q5 thing, and people were weighing in constantly. I posted a video of you operating. It's been watched 42,000 times. 700 people liked it. So it was just really fantastic seeing kind of that squad behind you. But I'm curious how it was having Valery there. I know he's been a great station owner and a great friend of yours. Was that moral support helpful to you?
Oh yeah, it really is. If I had done this by myself in a bunker on the top of this, isolated, I probably would have been in a different headspace. Having the station owner there is always really helpful because Valery, he'd bring me food. If I had any technical problems, he would have helped me. There was one instance where I don't know what the hell I did. I changed bands somehow. I don't know. You haven't slept in 2 days, and the radio went berserk, and I did this. I'm like, what the? I have no idea what happened. He's like, oh, your band changed, whatever. I don't know. Anyway, he showed me, hey, this is what's wrong. Okay, we get it back. But being there for moral support is great. When I was at TI7W, Cam would do the same thing. He would listen a lot or just kind of be in the area just in case. And that does make a big difference. I'm sure Dan having Levi there helped for sure too.
So I don't know if I misread this or imagined it, but it seems to me I saw a comment from you that you might be retiring from single op CQ Worldwide CW. Was that just said in a moment of frustration, or did I just imagine that?
No, I don't think there's a might to that. I don't remember saying I might not do it. I remember saying I'm not doing it.
Well, there you go.
I really have no desire to do it again. I just wanted to finish one more, and then I can do other things that are more enjoyable.
So while you were, in your bunker with Valery doing your thing, there were a lot of battles going on. I mean, the contest online scoreboard was fascinating all weekend long. Have you had a chance to get caught up with any of that?
I looked a little bit in my, day in Seattle, but I didn't really notice a lot. I haven't really dug into it. I mean, I'm sure, I think there's a historical graph I can go back on the scoreboard and kind of look and see how people did, and that's on my list to do. But certainly in the first 12 hours of the contest, everyone's really close. I bet that was super fun. I don't know. What were some of the battles I should look at?
Well, one was between Brazzo 5J1DX and V47T. They were going back and forth, and ultimately, I mean, it's a razor-thin margin. I mean, the UBN will make a huge difference between the two of them, but really impressive that Andy had that kind of showing from where he was. And Brazzo, I mean, I think he was up against a lot, and he just stuck in there. So that was a super impressive battle. ZF5T down in Cayman Brock at Stan Stockton Station, they came from third place into second place at the last couple hours. So that was a lot of fun. There's just a lot going on. And I'll save the rest of that conversation for the contest crew conversation we're going to have tomorrow and give you a chance to study up.
It's on my list to do today between taking more naps and doing as little as possible.
Well, there's no pressure. I wasn't trying to give you a homework assignment there, but have you had a chance to talk to Dan? I'm sure you have.
Yeah, we talked briefly. He's on a flight now from Dublin to LA, so time zone change. I was asleep when he was awake, but I think he's done with the trip. He's ready to get back home to some normalcy, but obviously the guy's riding high because he just probably an unbreakable record. They say that's never a thing, but they might be a thing. So I think he's doing just great.
So, Chris, I'm really cognizant that you just arrived home, you just woke up. I don't want to keep you any longer, but are there any other things you'd like to add before we wrap up?
I don't think so. Things will come up. We'll record tomorrow, but it really just an incredible experience. Had an amazing 2025 in the ham radio world, personally, and I couldn't be happier. It's great. I'm still riding high.
I'm sure I'm talking for many, many people. Congratulations. We were super impressed with the effort you put in, and Dan and Barazzo. It was a really fun contest to watch. Chris, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, thanks, Kevin.
My name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. This is Q5 Ham Radio. I'm here with Chris, CQ9A, KL9A, second place, single operator, high power, all band in the CQ Worldwide CW contest. You can hear him again tomorrow night in the Contest Crew Conversation 73.